Welcome to this year's Ideas to Bring Seder Night Alive 2021, 5781, and thank you for joining me. Let's begin with the basics. And I'd like to share with you the following. What I've called mainstream and complementary. Mainstream Sipur Yetzias Mitzrayim. That means the essential mitzvah of the night, the essential commandment of the night of narrating the coming out of Mitzrayim. Is first of all belief in Hashem, that we reinforce our belief in God, that God is totally in control, and demonstrated that in Egyptian times. Secondly, Hashgacha Pratis, namely that God has total knowledge of all that there is and total ability to intervene in our individual lives as well as in the lives of the nation. And thirdly, the creation of Klal Yisrael, that we emerged as the ambassador nation, and that our ancestors experienced all of that firsthand, and we are their descendants. That's what I would call the mainstream ideas from Sipur Yetzias Mitzrayim. Belief in Hashem. Hashem exists, Hashem is there, He demonstrated His power. He takes care of us as individuals, and we have a role as part of the Jewish people, as part of Klal Yisrael. There are what I would call complementary ideas for Seder night, which are also important. Believe in ourselves as part of the Jewish people, that I, as a Jew, find my role as part of Klal Yisrael, that I have a pintaliyid, the Yiddish phrase, the point within me that is my diamond, my neshama, my essence, dangers of assimilation, how that can be threatened. Those are complementary ideas. And we're going to have a mixture of mainstream and complementary. It's just important that we are founded on the mainstream and then bolstered by the complementary. The goal is that we emerge from Seder night with our emunah truly strengthened, our faith truly strengthened. As some writers call it, Pesach is a Rosh Hashanah of emunah, Rosh Hashanah of faith. Our deep appreciation of the role of the Jewish people as it developed through Yetzias Mitzrayim, and chizuk in our own individual lives, a bolstering in our own individual lives. Now, that's really the way in which we're going to go about it. So I want to start off with a couple of novel ideas to launch your Seder night. And that is as follows. You know that the most important idea, as we've said, is that we emerge with a sense of emunah. And we see through Yetzias Mitzrayim that God is in charge. So here's an idea which is childish in its presentation, but not at all in its meaning. And certainly if you have those around the table that let you get away with it, it's an idea that I feel is very worthwhile pursuing. Here we go. This is a puppet, a very simple handmade puppet. So I'm going to show you how to make it in a minute. It took me about 3 to 5 minutes to make. Very simple puppet. Bring a puppet like this or equivalent to the table. The trick with a puppet is that to try and engage those around you with the conversation with the puppet. Hello. Hello. What's your name? I'm the puppet. There you go. Doesn't take too long. Before you find yourself talking to a puppet. Now, hopefully, if those around the table will allow you to, and you engage with the puppet, after a few minutes, point out to them they're having a conversation with a puppet. And then the puppet looks, well, this one doesn't look particularly real, but you start interacting with it as though it is real, as though it's a real thing, until you take your hand out and reveal there's a finger behind. The Egyptians and the pagan ideologies of the time believed that the world ran automatically, that there was no God, or there was a God but he'd abandoned the world, or variations on that pagan theme. What happened in Mitzrayim is that Hashem takes the glove off. He turns the world upside down. He transforms the process of nature, so that even the Egyptian magicians are forced to acknowledge, there's a finger of God behind it all. And that is really a very powerful way to begin the Seder. By the way, I just want to show you how to make a quick puppet, because this is one that I made myself. having found something on the internet. Take an A4 piece of paper and fold it in two. And then simply fold the two sides into the center. So it looks like this now. Looks like this. Fold it onto itself. I haven't done this very precisely. Fold it onto itself. So you've now got, if you were to open out, you've got four columns. Four columns in one piece of paper. Then double it over. Like on blue piece over here. Double it over. And then the only bit that could be called a bit more complex is you then fold the outsides over themselves. Like so. You have in essence an M shape. Fold the outsides over themselves, you have an M shape. And then you actually have a couple of opportunities to insert your fingers. Like so. You have the beginnings of a puppet. You can, if you want to get really fancy, stick ears and a nose on. I wanted to make it very simple indeed. All I did was cut out from the actual piece of paper itself. Cut out the piece of paper itself, nose, eyes, and a tongue. No Lashon Hara. And that is your puppet. To demonstrate that the laws of nature were a facade. And during the Makkahs, Kodesh Baruch Hu pulls off the outside for us and for them to see. That's one way of opening up a Seder, but that's a real, what I would call a mainstream idea. It gets to the very core of what Seder night's all about. Here's another mainstream idea, maybe to use on the second night. Print out some pictures of Instagram occasions, maybe of your family. In fact, ask your family ahead of time. Of course, the puppet must be made before Shabbos this year. Can't make it on Shabbos Yom Tov. But ask the family to print out some Instagram pictures ahead of the Seder night. Don't tell them what it's for. And then maybe pass them around for them to discuss, and then more than one picture each. It shouldn't become a major reminiscence of the holiday, but an interesting introduction to the Seder. And then ask them, if you could capture in 3 or 5 words, what's the essence of Instagram? What's the attraction of Instagram? Maybe split them into pairs and see if they can come up with that strapline for Instagram. Well, I've had more time to think about it, but the essence to my mind is capture the moment and share. Want to make it 3 words? Capture and share. You have an experience of some sort. You want to capture it and share. Capture the moment and share. Could you imagine if we'd had an opportunity for Instagram at T.S. Mitzrayim, at the Makkahs, at that moment when we crossed the threshold of Mitzrayim? In fact, if you look at the beautiful Ramban, the last Ramban in the end of Parashas Bo, he articulates that in essence what happened over there was, like HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, we're going to capture this moment and share for all generations by creating mitzvahs that will constantly remind us of our beginnings, whether it's a mezuzah on our doorposts, it's a tefillin on our arms, it's a Seder night once a year, it's a Shabbos, it's a Yom Tov, it's Sukkot. Capture the moment and share so that is transported across the millennia from generation to generation through all the various ups and downs of Jewish history. I would call it not Instagram, but mitzvahgram. If you want to get a little bit more sophisticated, you can even print out a piece of paper, Instagram on one side, mitzvahgram on the other. A contemporary way of bringing home the power of our transmission. Every time you touch a mezuzah, you are literally linking yourself back all the way through to your Tzitz Mitzrayim. You sit around the same night, you're doing it in a very, very powerful way. This idea could be used here at the start of the Seder, or could be used in the paragraph, V'chol dor v'dor, later on when we get to that point in the Seder. On page 44 in the ArtScroll Family Haggadah. Okay, now I want to share with you a theme, which is a mainstream theme. And that is, this theme is an absolutely magnificent theme, and hopefully I can do it justice, which is from the Haggadah of Rabbi Loifter. Rabbi Loifter is one of today's leading contemporary educators in the Torah world, and he's written the Haggadah. This is not a Haggadah you can dig into, as he writes in his introduction. It's a Haggadah that you literally have to read through to develop the theme. And this theme really expounds on the central concept of Sipur Yetzias Mitzrayim. I'm going to give you this theme and then show how it can be alluded to throughout the Haggadah and then give you a methodology of expressing it on the Seder table. Here is the thing. In essence, the role of the Jewish people. Sorry. The role of the Jewish people can be summarized by expressing almost a mission statement of the Almighty. The goal of history, and ultimately of Yetzias Mitzrayim, coming out of Egypt, is to fashion Klal Yisrael as his ambassador nation on earth, with a role and an existence unique from any other nation. This will define the nation and the individual as part of the nation forever. This is almost like Hashem's mission statement. The goal of history, and ultimately, Yetzias Mitzrayim, is to fashion Klal Yisrael, the Jewish people, as his ambassador nation on earth, with a role and an existence unique from any other nation. This will define the nation and the individual as part of the nation forever. Imagine if that was Hashem's mission statement in terms of all of creation. This is what Hashem wants to achieve. Now, can we identify the important components in this sentence as the mission statement of Hashem? In other words, like in any business, if you have a mission statement, we want to supply the best mobile phone network in the country. That'll be your mission statement. So what do you have to do to make sure that you can achieve that mission? You have to break it down. Obviously, you're going to have top quality technology. You're going to have to ensure that you've got an infrastructure that supports it. You're going to have to be aware of the potential threats to such an ambition, etc., etc. So any mission statement, we then break it down to its component parts. Now, if you had shared this around the Seder table, maybe printed out, and I'm going to explain an easy way of presenting it in a minute. First, let's establish the thing. Can those around the table then identify the important components in this sentence of Hashem's mission statement? Well, in the absence of audience participation, let me suggest as follows. First of all, there have to be personal supervision from the outset. If Hashem wants this to happen, and he wants a nation to emerge in this way, it's going to have to be involved from the outset. There has to be a defined role. What is the role going to be, which is constantly referred to ensure that we don't lose sight of it. We have to recognize the threats in all of their forms, internal and external. And there has to be a clear end game, a moment when the mission comes together, and where the mission is realized throughout human history. Now, I'm going to show you how this plays out throughout the whole Haggadah once we understand this mission. And we're going to literally come back to this point by point and use it as an opportunity to engage those around the table in identifying the components of this mission. And here's an easy way of presenting it. And this might be more suitable for many tables. You take his choices. Imagine that you were a talent spotter, either in sports or maybe in theatre or in art. And your job is to find very young talent, and then to ensure that that young talent version blossoms so that it can realize its potential. And that'd be a great way of presenting the same concept. Let's say, for the moment, for argument's sake, you're a football talent spotter. You go around the country and you find a 5-year-old kid that is uniquely talented for his age. And you begin to keep an eye on this child, and you have got to create the conditions so that this child can eventually come forward and join the team with that unique role. Maybe some personal supervision. Maybe need to define the role. Maybe need to recognize the threats in terms of their lifestyle, or in terms of their environment, whereas they become older, to ensure they don't get involved in narcotics of one form or another. And then there has to be a moment when it all comes together. So either way around, maybe it'd be easier to present this mashal, this analogy of the talent spotter, and then draw from those around the table what would be necessary to create the components to ensure that you nurture this talent appropriately, and then transpose that by presenting this mission statement to Hashem. Hashem, if you like, was talent spotting for the major role, the role to bring about the realization of his goal in human history, to be an ambassador nation on earth that would survive the ups and downs and achieve to the maximum. Now let's see that throughout the Haggadah as we go through. Now, we're going to start with the Haggadah, but actually we're going to start with an idea that I have mentioned before. This is an idea that belongs more in the complementary section of Haggadah. but it's a beautiful idea. Yachatz, we break the middle mat, so we break it in two, and we hide the larger components away. In fact, as I mentioned in previous years, but here I'm going to add a story. Yachatz is reminiscent of that moment in the Torah where we're told that Yaakov faced Esau after over 2 decades of separation, and Esau confronts him with a small militia of 400 men, a welcoming party. And he says, Yachatz es ha'am asher ito. And Yaakov divided the camp that was with him into 2 camps. And he said, if Esau comes to the front camp and attacks it, the latter camp, the camp behind, will certainly escape. Against Esau's will and against Esau's best attempts, they will escape. Yachatz, exactly the same word. So I once saw in a Haggadah that was owned by my father, I don't have it anymore, and I believe it was from a Kabbalistic source, that every Jew comprises 2 camps. The outer person, the guf, the body, the physical, and the neshama, the inner person, the internal. The outer person has been attacked by Esau over the millennia, but the inner person always escapes. That neshama, that pint of the ear, that diamond within, that spark of the Jew is utterly and completely indestructible. On Seder night, we hide away part of the matzah to remind ourselves that that part of the Jew is indestructible. It is hidden. And that's the afikomen. By the way, this is a great moment to endorse our children, because every child has that diamond within. Sometimes more obvious, sometimes a little covert. And we as parents over Pesach have got to find that afikomen within each child. And it may be appropriate, after handing your table well, to actually think before Pesach. That may be something you can highlight in the strength they have shown in this difficult year from Pesach to Pesach, where they've shown that inner spiritual strength, that spirit that is part of who they are. And here is a story that goes with it. This is a story that belongs in the complementary department of Seder night, but it's a great story. And the story is told, I'm going to tell it in a short version, and you can elaborate on it. The story is told of 3 Hasidic students, Herman of Niatir, and Melech Luzent, and Levi Yitzchak of Berditchev, who each could go on to become great rabbis in their own right. They were once in yeshiva together, and there was a whole commotion outside because a young man from the town had been captured by bandits with a ransom on his head of 600 gold coins in 24 hours only to pay. There was no type of money like that in the shtetl before the days of match funding campaigns, of course. And they were all stuck. What were they going to do? Shneur Zalman said, we've got to do something. What can we do? Shneur Zalman said, I know, there's one man in this town that has that money. His name is Velvel. Velvel, the other said, you're crazy. He's an apostate. He's cut off his ties with Judaism. He doesn't give tzedakah. He's a miser. He won't give us anything. Shneur Zalman said, we've got to make our efforts. I am going to Velvel. That's where I'm going. If you're going, we're coming with. You want to come with? I do the talking. You stay strong. You stay quiet. You can describe this, how they went out of the shtetl, and his manor house was up on the hills with a beautiful carriageway and massive gates, and they went all the way up. As it would happen, when they got to the front door, Velv himself opened the front door and was amazed to see them there. He showed them such disdain. What are you doing here? I mean, I don't take to your types. Shneur Zalman said, please, just let us explain. And he explained Yidin Shavuim, Yidin captives, and that we have come here because there isn't the money in town. To their surprise, Velv said, you know what? I did once put some money aside for charity, but wait, don't come in, I'll go and get some for you. He goes in, and you think, well, maybe this was a good call. Comes back a few minutes later, 1 coin. 1 coin. To the surprise of his colleague, Shneur Zalman now begins a whole speech. Thank you so much, that was so good of you. I knew we could count on you to participate in this great mitzvah, really great. The door closes behind them and doesn't make up their way out of the carriageway. The other 2 say to him, what were you playing at? We're miles away from target. This is crazy. They didn't get to the gates before the door opens again, and Velvel calls them back. Wait, come back. I want to give it a little bit more. But don't come inside. Comes back, and thinks this time it'll be a sizable donation. 2 coins. 2 coins. And the Shneur Zalman embarks on the same speech, to the surprise of his colleague. And you can protract the story as much as you like, but they are called back time and time again, so they raise the whole sum. And when they go back to yeshiva, his colleagues say to him, his friends say to him, that was genius. How did you work that out? How did that happen? That was incredible. And Shneur Zalman says that it's obvious. Every Jew has that hidden dimension, that hint of the yid, that spark within. And nobody had ever accepted his first coin Once I accepted his first coin, then he was receptive. His heart was opened up. Sometimes, by the way, we don't accept our own first coin. And that's a shame. Seder night is about recognizing that we can retrieve that inner spark within through the process of Seder night. We move on to Magid. Here's a lovely challenge to engage everybody. Ask everybody to think of a YouTube moment from either the slavery in Mitzrayim or the Yetzias Mitzrayim. Everyone around the table, what would it be their YouTube moment? What would they film if they had been there? Everyone at every level can relate to this, whether it's the slavery or the redemption or that confrontation between Pharaoh and Moshe Rabbeinu for the first time. A YouTube moment. It's a great way of launching Magid, the narration of the story, and getting people engaged. Avodim Hayini were slaves to Pharaoh and Mitzrayim. In the Nisagoda on page 26. Great discussion point. Two discussion points. First of all, ask people if they can pick out the most powerful and potent phrase in that particular paragraph. There could be some discussion about that. Second, notice that it says Pharaoh and Mitzrayim, so Pharaoh in Egypt. We know who Pharaoh was, we know where Pharaoh lived. So saying for Pharaoh or to Mitzrayim, why both? So, there's in fact a Chassam Sofer that points out that we've always faced two types of threats. Remember, in our mission, we've got to look out for threats as well. Two types of threats, annihilation and assimilation. Mitzrayim is annihilation. Pharaoh represents the culture that is assimilation. Avodim Hayini begins by telling us that God took us out with an outstretched arm. That was against the threat of annihilation. But had God not taken us out, then we would have sunk. We would have mishubodim. Mishubodim means we would have been enslaved. We would have been tied up inextricably with the culture of Egypt and sunk beyond redemption. That is the threat of assimilation. So important to recognize both. Now, we then come on to the episode of the rabbis in Bnei Barak who are talking about the Seder night the whole night long. Of course, this is an opportunity to say to those around the table, how does this fit with the mission? How does this fit with the mission? The concept that we talk about the Seder night the whole night long, and then talk about the Shema in the next paragraph. Because if you have a mission, you've got to be constant. You've got to be aware of it the whole time. So this just shows you how throughout Magid, we're going to pick up connections with the overall theme. But let me share with you something a little deeper from this, from the Shalach HaKodesh. Shalach HaKodesh, great halachist, philosopher, and Kabbalist. I didn't understand everything he said here, but what he said was very compelling. And that is as follows. Ultimately, and this could be a discussion point around the table, it isn't always easy. Emunah, faith isn't always easy. And one of the challenges to faith is that we seem to see a world that sometimes has pain and sometimes has pleasure. And that's a challenge. In pagan thought, there was different gods. The god of war, the god of peace, the god of rain, the god of sun. I don't know enough about the pagan gods. But there were different gods. They couldn't conceptualize the idea of Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, Lord our God, Lord is one. But we know that actually it's all fused. It's all one. And even the darkness blends with the light. And this is what we learned in the Yetzias Mitzrayim. The darkness gave way to the light, and the light blended with the darkness to create the people that we are. What were they doing sitting that whole night long, says the Shalach HaKodesh? They wanted to blend the night with the day. That's what they wanted to do. When their students came to remind them of the time of Shema, well, they had time still to say the Shema. This was just the beginning of the Shema time. What were their students doing? So the Shalach HaKodesh, they weren't giving them a timely reminder in pragmatic terms. They were acknowledging the discussion that took place. Our rabbis, now we see that it's time for Shema. Now we see how Shema Yisrael, Shema Elokeinu, Shema Echad, it all blends together in the ultimate expression of Shema. Hashem is one in every way in which we see it. They were becoming part of the pilpul, part of the discussion, part of the dialogue. And it's fascinating to note that this is immediately followed by a paragraph discussing the Shema, because that's what we're bringing from it. And the brachas that precede the Shema, both in morning and in evening, are brachas that talk about God who fashions light, creates darkness. And in Mariv as well, Mariv Arobim Ampeserch Orim, who creates the evenings but also opens the gates. And therefore, this theme of this paragraph is a recognition through Sipri Yatzias Mitzrayim, through the narration, that actually the light and darkness blend, and ultimately all manifestations of Hashem's presence. I'm going to throw in a story over here. It's a story which you may need or may not need, but it's an interesting, fascinating story because we don't always see that light in those moments of darkness. So this I would call a story to keep in your back pocket on Seder night, and if you feel that it needs a lift, this is a story to share. Rabbi is one of the great and magnificent orators of our day and age. He lives in Israel and has a tremendous following. And I get regular WhatsApp videos from his team. And this was a story that he told, which, to be honest, if it hadn't been told to him personally, I would have difficulty believing it. Such a remarkable story. There was a man in America who had properties in various different areas of America, but mainly in the slum areas, in the areas of difficulty, in the areas of social depravity, I suppose, where it wasn't always safe to go. But that's where his properties were. One day, it sounds like he had to pop into one of his properties for a few seconds, and he leaves in his car 2 expensive MP3 players and an envelope containing $40,000 in cash. I can only presume, although the story doesn't give details, and he thought he'd been there for less than 5 seconds and could keep an eye on his car. And he was delayed. And he came back to find the car window smashed. His heart sank. And then he sees that the 2 MP3 players have been stolen, but the envelope is still there. It never occurred to them to check whether there was anything meaningful in the envelope. Was he crying or dancing? Of course he was dancing. He wanted to sing Hallow. The window was smashed. The MP3 players, both of which were expensive ones, totaling $500 together, had gone. But the $40,000 was there. Now, and he himself had the sensitivity to recognize that had he been another day without that envelope in the car and he'd come back to find the window smashed and the MP3 players gone, it would have ruined his day. He needs to get the car repaired, lost his MP3 players, all that goes with it. But here, because he could so clearly see the broader context and see the light, but certainly in this particular case, overwhelmed with darkness, he was able to recognize that ultimately, despite the difficulty, there was bracha within. But it's not to simplify the difficulties of life, especially in these difficult circumstances. And I'm not trying to suggest that we can always understand God's ways. Most times we can't. But at least to remember that there is light within the darkness, and hopefully we will see it. Now we come on to the paragraph in the Haggadah, which begins the narration. Page 30. Mitchila, originally. Now, I mentioned this last year, but this was from Avlot theme, which I hadn't had a chance to fully develop. Look at this paragraph, Mitchila. It starts by describing our ancestry, how from Terach and Avram, etc. It starts by describing our ancestry. And then, notice the following words. And ask someone to read out the paragraph in English and take note of which word features most. Then I took your father Avram from beyond the river, led him to the Canaan of Canaan. I multiplied his offspring, gave him Isaac. To Isaac I gave Jacob and Esau. To Esau I gave Mount Seir, etc. What's the predominant word? I. Who is the I? It is Hashem. This is the beginnings of the mission, where Hashem himself has to orchestrate events to ensure that the process is a successful one. That's where it all starts. I is the predominant word. That is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu is doing, putting the mission into place. And then we talk about Lavan. Lavan. What was Lavan's great threat to the Jewish people? I've never fully understood. This year, through Arota, has opened my eyes. It says that Lavan, Ami Ovid wanted to la'akor sakol, to uproot all that there was. Page 32 at the top. La'akor sakol. Lavan, in the words of Anoch, didn't want to cut us down. He wanted to uproot us from the beginning. When Yaakov gave birth and his wives to the 12 tribes, and this was the nucleus of Palishal, Yaakov wanted to deny that they were any different from anybody else. They're my children, they're my daughters, they're my grandchildren, they're part of my society. That's why Yaakov had to escape, because Lavan was the threat that was going to undermine the uniqueness of his family and uniqueness of his mission. And Hashem had to arrange things that they were saved and could move forward. This is the beginning of the translation of this mission. And then we come down to Mitzrayim. And in Mitzrayim, eventually there's this exponential growth. Mitzrayim was the superpower of its time, at the apex of civilization. This exponential growth from 70 souls to 3 million, at least, in 200 years. And the Egyptian nation, which was absolutely at the zenith and was respected by all, recognized that something unusual was happening over here. This nation that had come down here, which had a history, an Abrahamic history, from Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, this nation that had come down here, that saw life differently, they were growing at a rate that was beyond belief. And that they were going to, whilst Mitzrayim wanted to dominate the world, it was clear that Klal Yisrael were going to have a different take on the world completely. And therefore, within the womb of Mitzrayim, the embryo of Klal Yisrael develops. And in this embryonic stage, they go through all the difficulties, ready to emerge. And Mitzrayim does everything they do to try and kill it at birth. And you can point out over here that when it says Vayanunu, and they afflicted us, discuss some of the afflictions that they had. They made us build in a purposeless way. They wanted to Vayareu Osonu, they made us feel negative in our own eyes. This wasn't about their power or productivity. This was about their attempts to kill us from the outset, recognizing that our mission would be a threat to their view on life. But throughout, HaKadosh Baruch Hu keeps an eye on it all. Throughout, HaKadosh Baruch Hu keeps an eye on it all. Now, Klal Yisrael were Motziyonim. Motziyonim means they stood out there, but we know that they were almost at the threat of assimilation, but of assimilation. And we know that they kept certain components of their core personalities, which was the thread of their association to Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. And I want to share with you a great story that I heard, and that is a contemporary story. And this is in the realm of complementary information, complementary to the Haggadah. There was a man who was a religious man who was at a high-end networking occasion, at which Prince Charles himself was in attendance. And this poor man had deluxe harmonious meals, all set out nicely for him, and it caught the attention of His Royal Highness. And as we know, His Royal Highness is an admirer of Klal Yisrael and the Jewish people, and it caught his attention and began to engage in conversation. And after a while, there was another man there as well, who was also Jewish, but not religious, but he wanted to be in the conversation. So he sidles up to Prince Charles and this gentleman talking, and he says, by the way, I'm also Jewish, without missing a beat. Prince Charles turns around to him and says to him, so where are your plates? Where are your plates? Klal Yisrael is often in danger of forgetting our identity. And it's essential to remind ourselves of what identity comprises of. And then now God begins to describe how we cried out to Hashem. We began to reconnect. And it goes on to say, an idea that I mentioned last year, even though it's not actually the mainstream the mainstream analysis of this. And it links so beautifully to the story that we told about the first coin. We cried out to Hashem in the name of our forefathers. And actually, one of the Mepharshim says we didn't believe that Hashem would listen to us in our own voice. But because we wanted not to use our own merits or claim merits, that humility meant Hashem heard our voice. Sometimes we have to recognize our own first coin. And that was Kodesh Baruch Hu responding to our voice. Now, then came the moment where we had to take a stand, where we had to identify the Kodesh Baruch Hu himself. After all, we were in this embryonic state But we were naked, with nothing that could allow us to connect with Hashem. And then we're given the mitzvah of Pesach and the mitzvah of Milah. Let's, for a moment, understand the challenge that was for Klal Yisrael. Let me share with you the following. Imagine if we were to get the following letter from the Chief Rabbi's office, the office of the Chief Rabbi. Dear community, I have some vital news to share with you. We have it on first-class authority that we as a people are about to realize our destiny. The Sheikh will arrive in the next week. This is an unbelievable dream come true, and one that we as a people have been yearning for millennia. However, there's a graduation process, as you would expect. We need to demonstrate our faith in Hashem and our ability to relinquish the culture that has been ours. This coming Sunday, please order a poster of the royal family, including Kate and William, the national football team, and hang them on the outside of your home. On Thursday, just after midday, douse them with paraffin and incinerate. We have, of course, been grateful for the patronage of this country, but now we need to show ourselves and the Almighty that we can move on. These instructions are not mine, they are from our highest realms, the Almighty Himself. I look forward to joining you on our journey of redemption. That would be quite a challenging moment for all of us. But that is what Klal Yisrael had to do in Mitzrayim. They literally had to break ranks with the prevailing culture, with Paro and Mitzrayim, in the face of their tormentors, to demonstrate their ability to move on. We have quite a discussion as to how you would handle that. Why was that so important? Because now, if we trace the development of this mission, now comes the moment when Klal Yisrael have to demonstrate their readiness for it. They've been trained, they've been prepared, they've been observed. Now they have to demonstrate their readiness for it. Again, beautiful story. The same Pirkei Avos, Boter Ratzoncha B'fnei Ratzono. We should sublimate our will for Hashem's will. So, Irving Bunim, in his book Ethics from Sinai, brings the following anecdote. There was a man who sent his family onto America. He lived in Eastern Europe. He wanted to send them on and try and make some money back in Eastern Europe and then join them. They did very well. He makes, let's say, $50,000. $50,000. But sadly, before he can join his family in America, he becomes ill and realizes he's not going to make it. So he calls in a friend and says to his friend, look, I would like to commission you. You're going to America to take this money to my family and help them settle in America. And as an incentive, I want to give you some commission. Take what you want. Give them what you want. Sadly, the man passes away, goes to America, has to break the news to the man's wife. His husband's passed away, but there is some money for him. He tells her there's $50,000, and your husband told me to take what I want, take what you want, give her what you want. So he says, I'd like to inform you that I would like to take $45,000 and give you $5,000. The woman is aghast, as you can imagine, not only the news of the loss of her husband, but such dishonesty. That's clearly not what her husband meant. Eventually, she persuades the man at least they should go to a rabbi and put the dilemma to him. The rabbi hears the story and tells the man, produce the money, put it on the table. Now repeat again what the husband told you. It's very clear, said the man. Take what you want, give her what you want. Okay, says the rabbi. Now take what you want. He takes $45,000 out of the pile. Now give it to her. What do you mean give it to her? Give it to her. Listen to his instructions. Take what you want and give her what you want. That was the instruction. And that's what you're supposed to do. Give her what you want. We as a people have to take what we want, our ambitions, our drive, our aspirations, and use that for what Hashem wants. The first moment for that was this moment when Klal Yisrael faced with that challenge, the Yetzias Mitzrayim. Let's now the Haggadah begins to describe the final stages. On page 36. And I passed through Mitzrayim, and even on Malach, myself, said the Kodesh Baruch Hu. Nobody else. No alidei Malach, no alidei Sof, no alidei Shliach, not through any other agency whatsoever. This was the realization of the mission. Kodesh Baruch Hu himself now steps in. Hashem himself steps in to bring it to fruition. You would expect that, given the significance of this mission. And now you're going to get a fusion between Kodesh Baruch Hu stepping in and Klal Yisrael stepping forward. Note, by the way, there's much that could be said here, but just an interesting aside, the Yad Chazaka, the strong hand, is identified with the plague of Dever. Why is the hand identified with the plague of Dever? Because remember, the Egyptian magicians saw the plagues as the finger of Hashem. Well, this was plague number 5. By the time you get to 5, you've now got a hand involved as the Kodesh Baruch Hu begins to demonstrate its power. Rav Lochter again shows that here you've got 3 predominant themes: a Yad Chazaka, a strong hand, a Zroin Atiyah, an outstretched arm, and a Moira Godel, the revelation of Hashem. All then, which happens with Osos and Mosim, through signs and wonders. You've got a strong hand, outstretched arm, and revelation of Hashem. The strong hand is really about withdrawing the resources of the Egyptians. So all the plagues that damage the essential resources of the Egyptians, like the plague of blood. The outstretched hand was more of an active attack against the Egyptians. And the Mora Godel was where Hashem's revelation meant that all other existence was nullified. Such was his power that no one else could remain in the same proximity. Now this translates through into an enigmatic phrase. Dam va'esh v'simas ocean, the first time we dip out. Blood and fire and a column of smoke. Blood represents the Nile, which was attacking the resources. That was the strong hand. Aish represents an attack. That represents the plagues, such like wild animals that attacked the Egyptians. The simas ocean, imagine this puff of smoke. All other existence is nullified. Let us come to the 10 plagues. And here's a lovely idea which was presented by our team for this year. And we've all seen, you can all download these various pictures, which are blurred pictures. Until you put on your 3D glasses. And when you put on the 3D glasses, so then the pictures become clear. Beautiful analogy for the 10 plagues and a great moment to use the 10 plagues. And that is that the world had a certain image before the plagues came along. We didn't really see it with any great depth before the plagues came along, and certainly with no clarity. But the plagues were a new pair of glasses which allowed us to see the world in a whole new way. Presenting this around the Seder night table, I passed around pictures like this and several pairs of glasses and asked people to draw out the concept. It's really all there in the picture. You just need the right lenses to see it. Without the right lens, it all looks blurred and you get a distorted vision. With the right lens, the vision becomes clear. So let's focus a little bit on the 10 plagues. We always discuss the 3 groupings that the Yehuda introduces, and each year we give a different nuance. This is a variation on theme from the well-known classic Haggadah called the Layman's Haggadah. Now, the first set of plagues were really focused on the inanimate. The second set of plagues were focused on the animate. And the third set of plagues were focused on the atmosphere, the atmospheric conditions that prevailed across Egypt. So the first set of plagues, blood, frogs, and vermin, were really inanimate, the Nile and the dust from the earth. Then wild beasts, animal disease, and boils will all be animate. And then attacking human beings and animals. And then hail, locusts, darkness, and plague of the firstborn. Well, plague of the firstborn was everything together. But the next set really focused on transforming the atmosphere in Mitzrayim. We know that even the plague of locusts, it made the day go dark, transforming the atmosphere in Mitzrayim. Now, There is a fascinating analysis of the Me'am Loes Haggadah, which I'm going to screen share with you, who talks through the plagues as a military campaign. Talks through the plagues as a military campaign. I'd like to try and make it bigger, but I'm not doing very well at that. Let's see if I can do that. I don't know if I'm going to be able to succeed to make it bigger. So in which case, we will stop screen sharing. Whoops. And I will pray see what he says. Each of the plagues as a military campaign. Number one, when laying siege to a city, first you destroy the water supply. Number two, sound trumpets and horns. The frogs made an incredible noise. Number three, then the archers send stinging arrows into the defending city, like the lice, which stung throughout all of Mitzrayim. Then number four, the wild animals, the first all-out attack, reinforcements from all corners of Hashem's globe. Number five, infiltrate the defending city with agents, will poison the livestock, debilitating the food supply, pestilence. Number six, hurry up to Orov, Dever, Shechin, and then wound the citizenry in a more serious way with shrapnel. God's artillery was the plague of boils. Number seven, heavy artillery, hailstones, bombarding the city. Number eight, locusts. Number eight is, I've lost track here. Number eight is indeed locusts. The walls of the defending city were then breached. An attacking army kills everyone in sight. The attacking army was a swarm of locusts which invaded every house and every field. You can imagine like the troops pouring in, the hailstones creating breaches and symbolically the locusts pouring in. Number nine, defenders are taken captive in the plague of darkness, everybody frozen in their place. And finally, number 10, the leaders are executed. Fascinating analysis of the 10 plagues. And it's interesting to note that it starts off by telling us, Eile Esemakos, these are the 10 plagues that happened in Mitzrayim. Can't we count to 10 ourselves? And the Haggadah of the Chassam Sofer, the point that's being made of here is these are each independent strikes in Mitzrayim. Some of them was the first one, which then triggered a whole chain on cause and effect. That's not how it happened. Each one was an independent strike in Mitzrayim designed to humiliate and to destroy Egypt totally. And therefore, that's why, by the way, we need mnemonic. The mnemonic to help us remember. If they followed in sequence, we wouldn't need a mnemonic to help us remember. But because they don't follow in sequence, each independent, that's the reason why we need the mnemonic to remember. And now we come to Dayenu. And Dayenu has another place. We've traced the whole mission as it has evolved. From the beginnings of Talishah, with Avram and Yaakov, warding off the threat of Lot, coming down to Mitzrayim with the dual threat of annihilation and assimilation, exploding in population, the features developing within the womb of Egypt against their wishes. Then the moment when we had to emerge, as it were, step forward and demonstrate our willingness to take up the mission. Hashem himself comes back into the scene, but in a more vivid way than they've ever done before. Ani v'lo malach, me and no other agent. And now we have Makos itself, where the puppet, the glove, is taken off, and the total manifestation of Hashem is revealed. And then we come to Dayenu. Dayenu is not just a list now of thank yous to Hashem, although it is that too. There's a recognition of all of those stages. All of those stages. We can have a discussion around the table. Now we have articulated this mission. And by the way, as I said, repeating this, the way to create and turn this into a discussion point is at different stages in the Seder. Stop. What does Mechillah show in this mission? Stop. What was Lavan's role in attempting to deflect this mission? Stop. What does it mean that the population exploded? How did that fit in with the mission? What does it mean we cried out to Hashem? How did that fit in with the mission? So they, having created the template, we then use the Haggadah for reference points to generate discussion about the mission. So, for example, before we even start Magid, we talk about Baruch Shem Nasan Torah Yisrael. Hashem gives a Torah to Klal Yisrael. This seems a bit premature to talk about the giving of a Torah. Oh no, it isn't. Because remember, we have to have clarity of that mission throughout. The purpose of this was to create a people that would become those ambassadors of Torah. So throughout the Haggadah, especially if this is really designed for the adolescents around the table, engage them again. And refer back to the football analogy, or the scout analogy, how that allows us to identify moments of the mission that brought it to its realization. And Dainu, there is a recognition how every stage of the way we were being graduated, point by point, stage by stage. And that's what it means. Each stage was another process in the engagement of us and Hashem, and itself justified our recognition of Him. By the way, fascinating discussions you could have at this point in the Seder night is, do miracles create belief? Do miracles create belief? People often say to me, Rabbi, if I could have a miracle, I'd believe. Well, that isn't the case. As Rambam writes very clearly, miracles don't create belief. Miracles reinforce belief for someone who already has the basics of belief. That's what miracles do. They deepen our belief and deepen our belief and deepen our belief. In fact, it's not because we see a miracle that we believe, it's because we believe that we see miracles. And the more we believe, the more we see miracles in everyday life, from the great miracles to the small miracles. And that's also what Dainu is all about, looking at all the different aspects of the miracles over here. It's because we believe that we see miracles. Now we come to basically the finale of Magid, which is Pesach, Matzah, Umar. The three statements that have got to be made. Again, we referred to this briefly last year from Badloka. I hadn't had a chance to read it as I have done this year. So beautifully put. Pesach is really when Hashem passes over the houses and saves us. It seems that in that plague, we ourselves were under threat. We ourselves were under threat. Now, it's the only plague where we appear to have been under threat. How can that be the case? Because remember that there were the stages of God's fist, God's outstretched arm, and God's revelation. When God's presence is manifest, then the human frame can't normally handle it. Then there's automatic destruction. So how did we survive? Because by that time, we become part of Hashem. We become incorporated into Hashem. We survive because we transcended. And that was how we as a people survive. And that is how we as a people live. To quote Avlok's poetic words, we are not citizens of the world. We are ambassadors to the world. We are not rooted in the world. Therefore, our foothold is always uncertain. We are beyond the mission of others. Our mission is linked to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to Hashem, who is beyond the world. So Pesach focuses on the fact that we identified with Hashem, and that is how we survive. But that was the moment where the mission begins to come together. What's Matzah all about? You could ask those around the table. What's the aspect of Matzah over here? What's the main point being made? That we were ready, always ready. Remember, because we are citizens of the world, because we are ambassadors, we are not rooted in the world. Therefore, our foothold is always uncertain. But we're always ready for the mission, ready for action. That's who we are as a people. And in so doing, we recognize that life has its challenges. Moral. And in that way, even though life can be challenging, it often is, as we know, but driven by that mission, we're ready for what life has to present us to. Now here, let's just perhaps conclude with an activity which is a great fun activity. That is as follows. Pesach Matzah tomorrow. Ask two people from the table to stand up and face each other and cross arms and hold. So right hand shaking with right hand, left hand shaking with left hand. Then ask a third brave person to sit in the structure to be made and see if they can lift him up. Him or her. You see, together we can lift more than we can by ourselves. Pesach is where God stretched out to us, demonstrating his love for us and saving us. Pesach, Matzah, is where we showed our faith in him, ready to serve at any moment. Together, we can manage the moral challenges of life. That's where we are in terms of the Seder. It's no surprise that by this moment in the Seder, we should be ready for Hallel, to thank Hashem for giving us this mission, for the unique connection that we have with him. And hopefully by this time of the Seder, we've managed to relive it to the best of our ability and to, first of all, imbibe for ourselves the significance of this mission. And equally as important, on this special night, be able to transmit that to our children and generations to come. Thank you for listening.